everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Adventures of a Real Estate Investor. I'm Susie.
And I'm Michael, and we're excited you joined us for this adventure.
So today's fantastic guest is Rubelicious Rubik's Cube.
There
also
we
known
go.
as Ruben Greth. And we're super excited to have you here. So thank you for joining us.
Yeah, it's a blast. I mentioned before we got started here that some of my best friends called me either Rube Dog or Rubilentos, which is kind of funny because Rube means that you're kind of like not that smart, and Lentos means that you're kind of slow. So like that,
gosh.
yeah. And that's like my favorite thing that people call me. And I am kind of slow, like not like that I'm not smart, but it takes me a long time. Like it took me 10 years to graduate with a degree in chemistry, which very few people will ever get, but it did take me forever to get that degree. But anyways, I'm honored to be on your show. Thank you for having me.
That's awesome. We're really excited you're here, Ruben. So
Yeah, and just to even let our audience know, like how we met you, I mean, it was literally through Brian Briscoe's meetup group, which is like a super common theme. But just to show, I mean, and I say this a lot, like you meet the most amazing people when you put yourself out there in these networking groups. So please just continue to do it, because that's really how you can like find your tribe and find who you're truly aligning with. So please just get yourself out there. I promise it's worth it.
Yeah, put yourself out there for sure. We're getting ready to launch a Facebook Live challenge. I know that you went live on Facebook. I guess I'll let you chat it up because I want to ask you questions about that, but this is your show. I'm just here for the ride. So let's rock and roll.
no, that's great, Ruben. Like, I actually do want to get into that later on the show. So for our Adventurous family who's listening right now, hang on, because we're going to talk at the end of the show this cool thing that Ruben and one of his partners is doing for a Facebook Live challenge. So hang on, we'll get there. But before we dive into things even more, Ruben, would you mind sharing with our listeners a little bit about your background and how and why you started investing in real estate?
Yeah. So my dad planted a seed in me very young. He was a real estate investor, died when I was very young, but I do remember cruising around in his blue Ford Explorer truck, picking up rent at his little portfolio of properties. I think he had like 10 single family homes. And then many years later, after like struggling to be happy with the world, because I was brought up in Catholic church, and there was always like this anger that I had towards God. Like, how could God ever take away my father? And then when I finally got past that and graduated college, that seeds kind of started, I started watering it. I'm like, I need to get into real estate. My dad was a doctor and in the military. And I was just like, the one thing that I remember he told me is like, mijo, I made all of my money in real estate. It wasn't as a doctor, it wasn't as a politician, it wasn't as anything else. And I was like, how do I get into this thing? Right. So I tried mortgages, I tried selling real estate, and that really didn't teach me how to do anything except sell. Eventually, I started a meetup and came across this group that taught real estate. And this one dude came into town with a bankruptcy from San Diego. He lost all his money in spec homes, and he was buying up all these fourplexes, like one every 2 weeks. It seemed like. I was like, how are you doing this? Can I just cruise around to your projects and film you? So I did, and then posted those videos on YouTube, how, he found it, what he would do to it, to tenant occupy it, what he was going to do to rehab it, how he was analyzing it, where the capital was coming from, like how he negotiated a special term that was not even available to most people. And then from us sharing this message to the world, we raised like, I should say the portion that I raised like 600. I think he brought like $1 million on his own, but he didn't understand marketing. And he's like, Ruben, you need to focus on marketing. And then so I did. And then he didn't show up for any of these like marketing meetings. Like I flew producers into town from San Diego and had all this money invested in marketing. And then he wouldn't even bother to show up. So we started fighting, and I left real estate altogether, even though we took down like 22 units. And so I got kicked in, and sent back to corporate America. And I just can't be behind a desk. Most people can relate with entrepreneurial sentiment. Like I just can't be behind a desk. So I'm just like, I'm just going to take off. I went down to Mexico and met my to-be future wife, came back to the United States and was looking for a path to get back into real estate. I was like, I know fourplexes. I'll just buy a fourplex and I'll double my portfolio 5 times and I'll end up with 32 fourplexes, 128 units. And that'll set me for life. Right. And then I told this plan to somebody and they're just like, why don't you just buy 128 units right now? I'm like, what? How do you do that? So they introduced me to syndication, and then I found a local syndication company that with like 17 deals under their belt. They taught me some ins and outs and brought me on to really bring national exposure, marketing, capital raising. And their product was all about, heavy lift, value add, and secondary and tertiary markets in Arizona. And after starting my show, which was with the tool and the platform that I used to get the notoriety that I did, I found a lot of people that really didn't want the product that we had. They wanted big deals in big markets with cash flowing from day one. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go off. I had learned some stuff about capital raising. I'm going to go launch my own fund. And I left the company and then went underground for a little bit to plot and scheme like how I was going to do this. And somebody found out that I had left my company and they're just like, oh, I need to get this dude on my team. Andy McMullen reached out to me, which I believe you're releasing his episode either today or in the last couple of days. And he's just like, hey, instead of starting your own fund, why don't you come work with me, help me with the national exposure and build some infrastructure to my marketing systems. I'll give you a piece of my company. I'll give you a piece of my fund and we can blow this thing up, dude, because my focus is not on marketing. I don't have the skill set you have. My skill is around raising capital and meeting sponsors, but I don't know what you know about the exposure. Come join me and we'll blow this thing up. And that's where I'm at today. That's where I find myself like building all this infrastructure for his team. And it's such an exciting time. And there's a bunch of other stuff that I could talk about, but that's the essence of where I'm at.
I am amazed. Like, I really, really am. You know what the coolest part is though? And like for like what I kind of took out of that is like you stopped. I mean, you say you went underground, but like you went still almost and like into your thoughts to be like, what is the best course for me right now? And somebody came and found you, like that is phenomenal to me, but like when we're constantly go, 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 like some people don't have the time to stop you and be like, hey, let's see if we can do something together. And so like even taking that huge leap, to stop and be like, well, I don't know what's going to happen, but I know something different has got to happen. Like that is significant within itself. Cause I mean, we know Andy and you two are going to literally blow it up. Like I'm excited for you. Like that is going to be phenomenal. Like really, that's huge. And so like, it's cool that you've done it twice now, right? Like you went to Mexico, not probably thinking that you were going to meet your future wife. Wow. That's amazing. So have you actually ever thought about it that way? Like the times where you stepped away to like be still or just to get away from it all was like where your most significant,
100%. So I have a declaration statement, what some people call like, what they want to create in their life. And it's a long thing. And I have a full blown description and I've had it. And I don't know why it's still there because I already attracted this woman into my life. But I would read this not every day, but like for periods and short chunks of time, like I would read it twice a day for like 3, 6, 9 months. And then when I went into Mexico, I was reading this thing very frequently. And when I got to Mexico, because I didn't have a job, I was meditating quite a bit. And I'm just like, I was like crying, like, why am I almost 40 years old and I can't attract this woman into my life? But I didn't really think about this thing, which I understand, which is God's timing, right? Like I wasn't ready. The person wasn't ready, but the connection was made randomly. I was walking my dog in Acapulco and talking and looking in a different direction when someone's just like walking out of a network marketing meeting saying, hey, cute dogs, and they said it to me in Spanish, but for the purpose of this, we'll say, we got connected that way. And I was like, why are you dressed so nice in the beach? Like, she goes, oh, I came out of a network right now. And I knew immediately, I'm like, if you're in network marketing in Mexico as a young lady, that means you have to have a coach. And she's like, yes, I do have a coach. And then I started talking to her about like how proud I was of her and edifying her for going through this process, which is so challenging. for us, we consider it in terms of raising capital, but as any salesperson or network marketer, that it's like such a struggle to deal with the rejection. And like, you have to surround yourself with very powerful people that can like coach you up and talk you through these things. And I did that to her. And she basically was like, I need to spend more time with you. And that's how the connection was started. Right.
Like,
and
right.
you guys met in a similar situation at a TEDx talk where you guys were personally trying to grow too. So I think it's kind of a similar path in certain regards.
No, it is. And that's where you meet the greatest people.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. So I want to kind of unpack two things that you said, Ruben. One was that you kept saying these like affirmations, right? You kept repeating them to yourselves multiple times a day. So I'll start there. And I think that's super important. And I kind of want to like touch on this point for the Adventurous family, because affirmations are life-changing. Like people say, oh, it's, hoity-toity, woo-woo stuff, whatever. Like that is so powerful. Like when you write down like where you see yourself or what you want to do, and then you repeat it to yourself daily or even twice daily, like you were doing, like, or just listening to, like, there's an app now that you can like listen to yourself talk about it. I think it's called like, Think Up.
I have that one.
Yeah.
Yay.
And so you can listen to your affirmations, you listen to them all the time, and then it just comes true, right? It's just like you put it out there, and then your mind is just a beautiful thing, or just works towards that goal without even like, I mean, you're working towards it, but like it just makes it so much more real and so much more powerful, which is awesome.
Yep, 100%.
What made you start Affirmations? Because like, what was that like for you? Like, did you just know right away that was something you wanted to get into?
No. So like, I was always, we talked about the entrepreneurial spirit. And when you're young, you're looking, especially if you're like a marketer, like I have always been, you're looking for a way to create some kind of passive income or generational wealth. And that leads you to a bunch of network marketing companies or sales agencies. And like the best salespeople, the best network marketers, the best whatever kind of companies you associate with, they always have coaches, and the coaches give you that guidance. They're like, here, read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, read Think and Grow Rich, do an affirmation, like set yourself up for success. And they are the ones that trained me to do and write out these things. And then from there, you get interested and you start reading books, and then you align with whoever, in my case, Wayne Dyer. I started reading all of his, like how to create peace in your life and not worry so much about being a warrior and attracting things to your life, but just being a certain way and it automatically comes. So like, this is the type of stuff. And he's got a book called Meditations for Manifesting that I read way back in the day, because like somebody that read his book gave it to me, and he's like, oh, I attracted a gold mining operation by reading this book and passive income from the city when they kicked me out of the building that was going to be overtaken by the airport, and they had to replace my income and replace this possibility of me having to find a new place. And I was like, what, dude, let me check this out.
Right.
And so like, I got a lot of stuff from Think and Grow Rich. I even more so from another book that's less known called The Master Key to Riches, where he has you, Napoleon Hill literally walks you through how to create a declaration statement. And I wrote my first declaration statement in 2003. And it was only like, I don't know, 2 or 3 paragraphs. And there was some pretty powerful affirmations that came direct from his words. And then like every couple months, or, especially at the end of the year, I would look at it and like extend it and say, okay, this is cool, but like the woman's missing, the, the real estate, which I'm interested is missing, and this is missing. And then, over time, it like got to like, I don't know how long it is because it's in my app right now. But I think if I printed it out on a Word document, it might be like 10 pages long, something like that.
Wow.
Yeah. And so imagine how long it is on your phone app. It literally takes me 17 minutes to read it out loud.
Wow.
So, but everything is in there, like everything I want to create, like in terms of, and it's been dialed in and it elaborated upon year after year after year since 2003. So we're almost going into year 20 right now.
No,
That's
and
awesome.
what I love that you say like throughout that too is like setting yourself up for success. Like we are the only ones who can like give ourselves success. Like we can't wait for
True
other
that.
people to do it, or else we're just going to be waiting forever or disappointed forever. So like
Y'all are a prime example of that. Like building up a syndication business from Europe. That is just, I'm so inspired by that. But it is a true indication that people have the power to create things from anywhere in the world and create that income. And I know you guys are all about that. And so
yeah.
it's very exciting to be on your show.
No, thanks. But like from a long time, like I realized just like the people who I had surrounded myself with like years ago, all I kept hearing was excuses, 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 excuses. And so I told myself, like, I never want to sound like them. Like I have to take self-responsibility for every single thing. And so when it came to this real estate journey with Michael and I, what it was that like we know like the day he can retire from the military, if he has to stay in any longer, it's my fault and it's Michael's fault, you know? And that's like what drives me, because I can't blame it on anyone else. I can't blame it on the market. I can't blame it on any of the lenders. I can't blame it on my property managers, you know? It's all me. And so like that's the fuel. And that's why I love that you said, like, set yourself up for success. Like, that's just all we're trying to do. Like, so often we're like, how do you work so much? Or why do you work so much in the day? It's like, I have to set myself up for success. That's the only way that I'm going to get through this life, the way I want to get through this life. You know, I mean, there's bumps and valleys and really big potholes, but you get out of them.
I want to unpack a little bit about that, because I know some people, and I used to have what I consider a limiting mindset belief, and other people will disagree with me. But this concept that like I can work so hard and so much more than my competitors, that will bring me to success. And I am not a person that wants to out hustle everybody. I want to outsmart people, and I want to work less. Like I didn't get in this business so I could work 80 hours a week. That's what they were teaching in the MBA program. And I dropped out of that because I want to work like 20 or 30 hours a week and have the capacity to travel and do these things that most people can only dream of, you know, like 9-to-5 kind of workers and W-2 employees. And my concept was that you can work smart, not hard. And I had this limiting belief that like, if I was going to become successful, I had to like trap myself in a box, meaning working 80 hours a week and out hustling everybody. And I got on a coaching call with Ketan Patel, and he's like, Ruben, dude, that's totally wrong, man. What if I told you that you could work less and have a greater impact on people? And I almost started crying, having the realization right there that like, I didn't have to like worry about having to work 80 hours a week to create success, that there were paths and mindset shifts that could happen to me internally that would allow me to work less and create a greater impact. And that was so empowering for me. And that's one thing that I think a lot of your audience can really hone in on, because a lot of us are trapped in this concept that we have to work so hard to have success. And the reality is that you can work smart, work less. And I've seen numerous examples of this from people that I've interviewed on my own show, where like they thought that there's no way they could ever work less and go on vacation for a month a year. And then they do and end up raising way more capital than they ever thought was possible.
Yeah.
So it's exciting.
Right. Because like even when your mind is clear, because when you're working 80 hours a week, there is no clear mind, like no new thoughts. It's so busy. Like when do you actually get the time to like have that creative thinking or that intuitive intelligence? It's all out of the window because you're being reactive at that point. When people are working 80 hours a week, they're reactive, you know, and what's happening to you then? Like, why would anybody want to be a part of a reactive business? You know, if you think about it, like in the traditional stock market, you know, if you were hearing like, oh, a company is doing all of these things, they're not trying to find forward solutions, everyone would be like, ugh, I don't want to be a part of that. But like, oh, as entrepreneurs, we can work 80 hours a week. And for some reasons, like, yeah, it's like, no, we're still being reactive. But people also have to, like, you had that mindset shift, you know, like even we experienced that. Like one day I literally was just like, I never want to post on social media again. I never want to attempt to edit a video. Like it's like finding the who's like to do the hows, you know, like, because when you are doing your best work, and you bring somebody else in to do their best work, together you create even greater work. But if you're just trying to do mediocre work for everyone, like, where does the best come out of that? Sorry.
Yeah.
There is a little piece that I want to expand upon, though, because entrepreneurs a lot of times will work really hard for a few years, knowing that if they do, they can live a life that most people can't. It's just, so like you got to find the right balance for you, but not prevent yourself from becoming an entrepreneur by limiting your own self through your own thoughts. You got to find the right balance, and that's different for everybody. But you don't have to go too crazy if you don't want to. And you can also create a life of freedom by busting your balls for 5 to 10 years or whatever time frame it takes. Some people do it slower and some do it faster. But the reality is that as you become an entrepreneur, you can select a time frame that works for you to create the success that you want. And that can mean so many different things to so many people, because I know people that would, like, if they had $3,000 of passive income, they just go retire on a beach, in Tahiti or Mexico somewhere on the Mexican Riviera. And that's like way more money than they could ever need.
Right.
And other people are like, I need $25 million of passive income per year. And like, I'm going to go crazy trying to get it. And, like whatever is good for you is fine. Some people need no passive income. Like there's this story of the fisherman that's like, he lives on a little beach town, and an entrepreneur comes off from his crazy business and goes on a fishing trip. And he's like, oh man, you should like start a fishing business and like have a bunch of boats and like you can create this empire. And then, the little fisherman's kind of like going, well, why would I do that? He's like, oh, well, so that way you could create a bunch of money. And then like, so what would I do with that money? And then he's just like telling him, oh, well, at the end of the day, you can go and retire on a beach and live the life that you want. And he's like, oh, well, I'm already doing that. Right. So like, I'm already on the beach. I'm already going fishing every day. So it's like some people have this mindset of like, you need all this power and money and whatever to have the life of freedom. And this like young, poor fisherman is already living the life that he wants. It's the ideal life for him. So not everybody wants the same thing. I think it's a great parable or whatever it is.
No, it is. And it truly shows too, like how many different versions or definitions of what freedom is, and like people need to recognize that like we all weren't meant to be like cookie cutter. Like we're all meant to like have our own definitions and make our own life and do our own thing. We just, some reason, like want to get into this mold, but molds are not fun.
Yeah.
So don't do it.
Ruben, I said at the very beginning, I had two things to unpack, and I'm sure our listeners are like, is Michael ever going to unpack that other thing?
I thought that. I was like, okay.
Is it ever going to come out? And they're going to end the show, and we don't know what he's thinking, right?
No.
But the second
I do that a lot on my show, by the way.
The second thing I wanted to unpack, Ruben, was like, so you mentioned it twice now, after I thought about it, but at the very beginning, you mentioned, meeting your soon-to-be wife or your future wife. You talked about coaching at that point, right? Like surrounding yourself with very powerful people who can like lift you up and bring you up, right? And like feed you information that you need to hear. And then you talked about it again, right? When you had a coaching session with Patel, I think, and like how he like had this mindset shift for you or helped you with that. So what I'm getting at is like, I think there's a lot of top athletes out there, right, who pay and have like these coaches and stuff like that. Like coaching is such a athletic thing, but like, what is the difference between like top athletes and like top entrepreneurs, right? Like if you want to be a high-speed entrepreneur, like I think coaching is almost necessary, like to take you to that next level, if that's what you want, right? So we're going back to, if that's what you want, then yeah. And so can you maybe touch on a little bit like how powerful coaching has been for you?
So right now I get coached by the ladies at Good Egg Investments, Annie Dickerson and Julie Lamb. Shout out to them. I know that you guys are getting coached by Hunter Thompson. I've had him on the show, but the idea specifically to capital raising and marketing and branding and reaching out and automations and connecting with and staying top front of center with your investors is something that like, particularly like I was on a call with Coach Trevor McGregor recently, and we lead a mastermind for our group at the Good Egg Investments Real Estate Accelerator Program, where he's talking about like, what people fail to do when they want to change or adapt or evolve. And he mentioned that people lack systems and they lack mental awareness and they lack time blocking. And I lack some of that stuff, like the time blocking. Like I want to write a book on capital raising, and I've already got some places. I already selected my publisher. I already got my outline set up. But like, when am I going to spend that time during the day to write this thing out? I have the content. It's already been created on my show, 150 plus episodes.
Right?
So like,
much.
you know what I mean? It's like the content is all available, but like, when do you time block to do this? And like, the coaching is so important because they're the ones that help you see past the things that you yourself don't see. And it can get you a wife if you talk about it in the right circumstances. So the coaching is huge. And like, you know, we even did a show on like, do I get a coach or not? And like, you can struggle. Like, I don't know if you've ever seen that one movie where I forget what it is. The dude is played by, I want to say Matt Damon, and he's in Harvard University, and he's smarter than the Harvard students. But it's just such a rare case for somebody to self-study and become smarter and successful without those coaches. It's an unusual exception that people can make movies about because it's so rare. But the reality is that everybody that I've ever dealt with that has had success in either a sales type of business or a business that requires a lot of rejection, have the most successful people have always had coaches. So like, just understanding that fact like makes you want to go hire coaches. Like I want to go hire Hunter Thompson, even though like I'm already working with Kate and Patel on some level, and I'm working and I'm paid and subscribed to the Good Egg Investments Real Estate Accelerator program. And like, probably I'll find other capital raising systems, and I want to even create my own. Like when I'm watching Hunter Thompson speak about his capital raiser system, I'm imagining myself being in his shoes, selling my capital raiser program, right? So I'm already implanting that thing. I think Wayne Dyer likes to say, like, contemplate things as though they have already happened and be grateful for them as though they have, and then you'll manifest it. So like, I'm thinking about like all the things and the impact that I can create, and you can't really do at a very high level of success all of the things that most people, or in my case, I want to do, without surrounding yourself with coaches that can teach you. And, you know, it's not about recreating the wheel. It's about following the path that somebody has already laid before you, right? So like, particularly in multifamily syndication, so many people, they want to go and try and do it by themselves, but there's so many roads that you can take. Just like, study people that have already done it and realize, like you all did, is that these are regular human beings. They're not like special goddesses or anything like that. All you have to do is the same thing that they did. They talk about the way that they did it on everybody's podcast. So you just got to like shift your mindset and grow the belief in yourself, and surround yourself and read the right material and or listen to it, and then follow the path that has already been laid before you. Because I see it over and over again. Like these little kids that are 20 years old, they go and buy an apartment complex, and it's just because they have the right mindset. It's not because they have skill sets that are superior to all these people. But, you know, like, coaching is different than education, because if all you had to do was educate yourself, then there'd be a bunch of PhD millionaires, and you know that there's not, you know.
Yeah.
So it's about surrounding yourself with the right network. And that's what's exciting about multifamily, is because everybody is of abundance mindset and are rooting for the people that are coming up. And I love that specific. That's my favorite thing about multifamily syndication, is that everybody is rooting for you and giving you tools to succeed, even though you're their direct competition. It's kind of crazy. I don't know that there's a lot of industries like that.
No, that's totally true. And even to like go back to like the coaching thing just for a moment, like even beyond like a sports coach, or like what we would call a coach, you know, in the syndication world or in the real estate world, instead of coach, if you don't like that word, think of the individual as an advisor, and then think about everybody who has an advisor, right? Like top executives have an advisor. It's their board, you know, like presidents have advisors. Like we could go way back, you know, to God and goddesses, like to the Greek gods, they had advisors. I'm not kidding. You know, like you go to somebody to ask questions because you have blind spots. It goes that far back because it works, and it's continued to move forward because it works. So like, just remember that, you know, like you said, we're not reinventing the wheel. We're doing what works. And that's the best part, is like opening up your mind to seeing it that way. It's like, oh, all these people are successful because it works. And I love that you also said that we're all like pulling each other up, because that's so true. And you know why it's true? Because it works. Like the common theme is what blows my mind, because so many people are against it, right? Because even in a traditional 9 to 5, like people will hold on to their skill sets and not want to share them with others, because if somebody else also learned that skill set, then they're not as important, or, you know, they have a chance of being able to be let go because somebody else has it. Like we're in a whole new world where we can share so much information. It's phenomenal.
Shelly Peterson came on my show and mentioned how she climbed the corporate ladder and invited her sister or sister-in-law to come on. I forget which one. And then because she was in the wrong region or zip code, she got replaced by her own sister and was let go. Like, and people in corporate America are replaceable was the lesson that she taught on, shared on that show. And like, that's not the same situation in entrepreneurship, particularly not in multifamily, because like you said, a ship raises, you know, a tide raises all ships. And when you surround yourself with all these people and coaches and mentors and, or just regular entrepreneurs that have nothing to do except better themselves, they bring other people along with them, because that's the whole reason they got involved with it to begin with. Right. So it's a fun industry for sure.
No, I completely agree. Like all the time. And that's why we talk to great people like you and start the podcast, you know? I mean, it just keeps going, like all the stuff that you can do. And it's always fun, you know, like we enjoy doing this. You enjoy doing your show, like enjoy talking to all the different people. I mean, and you learn so much every single time, you know, and that's a big thing too. Even if you learned one thing, it's completely significant, because that one thing will change you. It'll change your life. You just have to act on it.
Yeah, there's a new strategy taught like on every show, or something that like really stands out, or a refresher or reminder. So talking to all these really successful people, that in itself elevates you. So podcasting has been an effective medium for elevating myself, just in the sense that I surround myself with a new network of powerful people. And they always talk about your network is a reflection of your net worth. So the more successful people that are trying to bring other people up that you hang out with, and the more that you remove the negative people that are holding you back, the crabs that are pulling you back into the bucket. If you can get away from that, you know, that's where the power is invented. And like, I remember going on Derek Clifford's show, and he's like, yeah, I agree with that. But like, how do you remove yourself from these people that are holding you back and that are negative influences, you know, a lot of times that have the same last name as you. And I'm just like, well, here's what I did. And it was actually me that said it, but this was what I did in order to remove my circle of influence, which probably some of which are still cranky with me. But like, I got into network marketing and spirituality, and like those guys wanted nothing to do with that. And they left me. I didn't even have to push them away. They naturally left, and they started cracking up at that. They're like, I never thought about that as a strategy for changing my circle of influence. But there's different ways, you know, like I think primarily though, it's not that, it's associating yourself with people that are already either coming up or have gotten there or have paved the road, and then hang out with those guys by going to different conferences, which I believe you guys are talking to me about the different conferences that are available for 2022. So yeah, I want to go to Best Ever. The Jake and Gino ones are great. I've never been to a Deal Maker live one. I've never been to Hunter Thompson's ones, but there's a ton. So I want to go to as many of them as possible. And then, you know, eventually get called upon more and more to be a speaker at one of these. Right. So I've spoke at Jerome Myers a couple times. That was a lot of fun. And I'm scheduled to talk at Mike Morawski's Multifamily Global Summit, I think in October of this year. So hopefully, you know, as I continue to progress and learn more about being a fund manager and have some success raising capital, I'll be called upon. And, you know, it's going to be a lot of fun. And I can't wait for this journey to hang out with people like you guys and see how you guys grow too, because you guys have already scaled immensely just since the time that I first saw you on Brian Briscoe's event for the first time.
No, thank you for that. But trust me, I'm going to be like in the back with the sign, like cheering you on, because I'm excited. I'm excited for you and your growth. It's going to be phenomenal.
Awesome.
So Ruben, it's been a pleasurable conversation, but unfortunately we've come to the Adventurous 4. These are 4 exploratory questions that we ask all of our guests.
Are you ready?
They tried to prep me for this, and I said I don't want to know what the answer. What the questions are. So
Okay,
let's see if they can stump me.
All right. So the first question, Ruben, is where is one place you wish to travel to and why?
So top of the list, there'd probably be two places. I'm going to say two anyways, whether I'm allowed to or not.
I'll just have to mute you.
So Prague has been on my bucket list for a while, and like a place that I've already been and lived in, which is my favorite part of the world other than Sedona, which is the Mexican Riviera. Like there's this place called Akumal, where you're right on the beach, snorkeling with turtles and hanging out. And there's a different theme park for every day of the year. And it's paradise. And you can go swimming in caves and cenotes and freshwater, systems. And it's just like, you can go hang out on the beach and drink a Corona. That's where they film the Corona, with this turquoise water. And there's ruins and monkeys and quadrimundis hanging around. And if you can avoid the bugs, you're in paradise. So those two places for sure.
I love it. Thank you for sharing that.
If you make it to Prague before we leave Europe, hit us up. We'll meet you there.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yes. My wife just got her residency, so we can travel internationally now.
Very exciting. And then our second question is, what is the number one thing on your bucket list and how are you leveraging real estate investing to achieve it?
Number one thing on my bucket list. God, I want to reword this question a little bit. Number one thing on my bucket list is to become a passive investor, as weird as that sounds, where I am no longer active. I'm no longer hustling and it's great to help a lot of people create generational wealth along the way. But at the end of the day, I want to shut it down and just receive those checks. And then hopefully at that point, I've created generational wealth and then create a new project where I'm either helping, look, one of the things that I'm passionate about is all of the poaching that goes on in Africa. So if I could make a difference there, and animal abuse is also big for me, like domestic animal abuse, people mistreat their dogs. And I don't even want to go into the stories that I've heard. I've even seen things that have really been shocking to me, but I've always been an animal lover. So those are the things that are on my bucket list. If I can impact in any way, shape, or form the animal cruelty that happens in the world, and that's the biggest thing on my bucket list.
Love that. I love that. That's amazing. Thanks for sharing.
As
Ruben.
our cat is behind us eating dinner.
I got 4 German Shepherds in the office with me right here.
I love that.
That's awesome.
If I can show some of them. I don't know. They're all passed out, but they're all in here with me.
I love it.
That's cool. That's really cool. So the third question, Ruben, is what is one piece of advice you have for someone who wants to start passively investing in real estate?
Go interview other passive investors that have had success, don't go. It's important to go and talk to sponsors and see if you like them and all that. But before you make a decision, talk to some of the people and get some social proof that the people that like them, or that the people actually stay with them. Because it's kind of funny is that passive investors, the number one reason that I've heard over and over and over of why they no longer stay with an investor and move to a different one is because the communication structure sucks. So ask somebody in their company, hey, how was the communication? And they may say something like, oh, I had a great return. And then you may say, well, how was the communication? And they say, oh, well, it sucked. And I'm probably going to go with a different sponsor next time. And it's not because they're not making money. It's because the overall experience is just if you have $50,000 or $100,000 or $150,000 on the line and you don't know how to communicate with the sponsor and you're not getting continuous updates or being able to check on what's going on with the property at nighttime when you're, it's 12 o'clock and there's no investor portal and everything sucks. Man, just talk to some passive. And if you want to get into passive investing, talk to some people that have already done it and find out what they liked or did not like, and if they're moving on for the next deal.
No, that's great advice. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
And then our final question, which you kind of answered it, but if you had unlimited resources available to you, how would you leave an impact?
Yeah. So let me see if I can play on it. I used to have this goal, which was my original thing that I wrote down on my declaration statement many years ago, which was to start this thing that I don't think I would call it this now, but it was called back then, I would call it the Eradicate Cancer Organization. And like through a lot of self-search and discovery, after I got my degree in chemistry, I did a lot of biological studies on the natural cures for cancer and found out that there's a numerous variety of cures and things that you can take, like active hexose correlated compound, which is a supplement made from mycelia of shiitake mushrooms that basically increases your capacity for your natural killer cells to improve your immunity. And they go out and find abnormal cells and they inject these things with things called macrophages, which will blow the cell up. And then another white cell will come and clean this up. And it's essentially, it's a cancer prevention mechanism. And honestly, people that have a very strong immune system never get cancer because their immunity system is working efficiently. And that starts to break down as you get older, or if you have some other deficiencies or problems or things that you do to yourself in life as you go, you know, and sometimes that happens as young as when you're like 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 years old. But there's all these things that like once I researched them, I found out that like people that find the cures for cancer get murdered. And that like really deterred me because I have this intention to live like 121 years old.
Yes.
And I don't want to get murdered when I'm like 40, you know, even that's another spiritual thing is like, you think that like, just if you want to create an impact and help the world, that the universe will break its back to conspire on your behalf. And the reality is that we live in a world that sometimes is powered by people that are hungry for money, fame, prestige. And, you know, when people really want to capitalize on the billions of dollars that they're making from pharmaceutical companies, and a guy like Ruben comes around promoting all of these free products that can cure cancer, it threatens their business, and I could be removed from the planet for that. And that's kind of a scary thing. But, you know, I may want to go back and make that kind of an impact and share my message, because now that more and more people are like, you know, we're in the information age and messages are getting out, natural cures are getting out. And now you can't pinpoint and target one specific person that finds a cure because the information is starting to get out there. I'd like to help maybe underground and on a quiet level, help some people really share the message without really being the face of it, because it's still kind of nerve-wracking to me, the horror stories I've heard of people that have been removed from the planet because they found a cure for cancer. But that's one impact that I'd like to dive back into, you know, so I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, do it when you're 122, and then you'll be like, well, I got to 121. I can do this.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
So we said at the very beginning of the show that we let you explain a little bit more about your Facebook Live thing. And so the listeners have been waiting. So now I want you to maybe elaborate a little bit more on that for our listeners. And then also at the end of that, just go ahead and tell our listeners how they can get a hold of you as well.
Yeah, cool. So it's monsoon season, summer of 2021, and we are getting ready to launch a Creative Capital Challenge, which is essentially a Facebook Live challenge that one of my friends took, and he raised $6 million for the soft commits just by following this other dude in the Single Family Spaces program. I think it was called 500K, 30 days to 500K challenge or something like that. And when he told me about it, I'm like, you got to be kidding me. You raised, how the freaking heck did you do this? And he told me all the steps, and I'm just like, we have to create this and tailor it for multifamily syndicators that want to raise capital. So we went out and recorded 30 videos. I guess the format is you receive a video from whoever the sponsor or host is of the challenge, and then you go live with the other challenge members and basically share a little bit about yourself. Don't talk about business 100% of the time, but share the fact that you are in a business that creates generational wealth. And over a period of 30 days, the idea in our challenge is to raise at least $1 million of soft commits or hard commits, we're going to give a big trophy out to whoever raises the most capital. We'll have to look at how that exactly is formatted, because I don't think soft commits are going to count. It's going to be actual money in the bank that's going to make the difference to me. Right. But yeah, so this challenge, you can find it at creativecapitalchallenge.com. We're super excited about it. You get homework, you get challenges, but most importantly, and the whole reason I started this challenge was so that I could go live myself for 30 days, because I don't go live very often. And it's just another opportunity and platform for you to reach out and find people and plant seeds that you are doing what you are doing, whether that's creating generational wealth, raising capital, doing multifamily syndication, or just eating sushi with your wife, traveling to Sedona with your dogs, and traveling to wherever, or hanging out, or doing something funny, or being at a party. Like, people on Facebook particularly need a combination of both. If you just overwhelm them with business, they're going to roll their eyes over. And if you're just, doing stuff that's fun, then they're never going to see you as a person of influence that they need to reach out to for future creation of generational wealth. So it's got to be the right blend. And Facebook is a tricky thing. LinkedIn, I think, is a little easier because you can talk about mostly business and inspiration on there. But Facebook, you have to really be personal in there, because people go there to be entertained. The whole purpose that people are on Facebook is to go down their feed and see what people are doing. And if it's all business, they'll just, even your algorithm will start to suffer.
Yeah.
So yeah, reach out to me at creativecapitalchallenge.com, Ruben at Capital Raiser Show. Check out my show, The Capital Raiser Show. We have 230,000 downloads and growing.
Oh.
Just absurdly fast right now because of, the energy of the guests and the rock star that I drink before the shows, including before jumping on other people's shows. So it's just a blast. And then check out our new company, Legacy Acquisitions. We're building out a really powerful infrastructure through that business, which is a fund management business that invests in build-to-rent communities and other multifamily syndications. We're always seeking out new operators to work with, but only if you are the best operators that not only does good as a business owner, but actually creates good within the community and has some kind of nonprofit organizational aspect to your business. But reach out to me. I'm happy to chat with anybody, including the beginning investor, the person that's thinking about either being a passive investor or looking to get into multifamily. I have those conversations on a regular basis. Do it soon too, because at some point I'm going to get bigger, and not have the time. I love sharing the time that I have with people, but it's getting absurd. Vinny Chopra's got a book, the apartment syndication book. I forget what it's called. And
or syndication or something.
Apartment Syndication Made Easy. And he has this example of a dude that's like, a street entertainer in India that's like got all of these sticks and balancing all these spinning plates on there. And like, I'm starting to get to the point where I'm balancing one on my foot, one on my head, one on my left hand, one on my shoulder. And like, I still have time to talk to the aspiring investor, but at some point, it's, at least as I'm hustling over the next few years, it's going to be challenging. And I'm a lot of fun. I'm easy to talk to. So reach out as soon as you can, because it's going to get crazy here in the next couple of years. I am going to be one of these dudes that really turns it on and then eventually goes underground, shuts it down, and just turns my attention to like helping the planet in a different way.
I love it. Good.
I do too. And seriously, like if somebody's offering that, take them up on it. Like, and you will get fuel from Ruben's energy. So do it. You will. I love it.
I appreciate this. This has been an amazing opportunity to hang out with you guys. I love kicking it with you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Us too. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been a true pleasure.
Awesome.
Yeah. So until next time, explore more. Adventure awaits.